Alright guys, so I'm getting slightly caught up on orders and I'm waiting for some materials, so I figured why not do a little bit of a composites shop tour. You know, I know our composite related videos generally do a little bit better than some of our, fabrication or car videos. And a lot of people over the years have just kind of asked about, we're going to get into our oven, kind of just the general setup that I like of my composite shop. As you can see, it is not very large, but it's set up in a way to hammer out a ton of parts. So yeah, let's get to it. Alright, so it's just a two-car garage. I do have a trim shed, just, 10 feet outside of this, but pretty much just computer area, printer, any stuff you kind of need to run a business. I should probably add that, for those of you who don't know, making carbon fiber parts is what I do for a living. This isn't just like a hobby for me. So this is set up to kind of run as a business. If you're doing it as a hobby, you don't need as many parts. You can actually do it in an area much smaller. When we get into some things, you'll kind of see it might be much more than the average person needs. But again, like I said, it's kind of set up to what works for me. So yeah, so we kind of have, this will be like the office area, we'll call it, anything we need here. The other thing that happens in this office area, if you're watching YouTube and you're watching one of my videos, you click that little subscribe button. So that way you can keep up to date with future videos. All of our hardware that goes with any of the parts we make, kind of try and keep it organized. We just got a shipment of splitter biscuits, any miscellaneous stuff we need. A little bit of a shipping area here, packing paper, all of our labels, stuff like that. This bench right here kind of does double duty for shipping and layup. I'm sorry, not really layup, but when we cut all the materials behind me to lay up parts, sometimes I kind of stage them right on this bench, because our cut bench, what we'll get into in a second, right here, just kind of cut your material, stage them there, so then you can go ahead and lay them up. So kind of just moving along, little workbench on wheels. Again, being a small area, just having everything on wheels so you can move it, because like our large flat panels are behind it there. A little bit of mold storage, some other like sealers, releases, stuff like that. Anything I need, I kind of try and keep in the shop here. We'll go to, so our cut bench, this is kind of the heart of like just about any composite shop. It's 60 inches wide, because the standard width of a lot of materials is 60 inches. Carbon is 50. Some might be a little bit, different widths or whatever. And it's 120 inches long. So what's that, 5 feet by 10 feet. So it's a pretty good size, which allows me to cut stuff, like our wings are pretty large. We used to do hoods, but I kind of discontinued them. And then you can see, all the stuff we use to cut materials. You can see how these clamps are red. This tape measure has red tape on it, red tape on that, red tape on the scissors. So that's called GPS tape. So GPS tape is you put a color on all the tools that need to stay in a certain area. So our mini layup bench is green, so any green tools stay here. So it just kind of helps me stay organized. I know if you've been working on cars or doing composites, you have like 10mm sockets. I know that's a kind of pretty common joke of like spending 5 minutes working on your car and then 20 minutes looking for the tool you just had in your hand. So GPS taping stuff kind of really helps that out a lot. Our fabric rack, you can tell, just made it ourselves. I 3D printed a little core plug for this, because the company I get my bag from puts it on like a weird size tube, but most times a standard 3-inch tube is used, and you can just get these core plugs for it. I kind of locked it in there with this hose clamp, so that way when I pull this all the way out to cut whatever I need to cut, I can kind of just like grab it, you know, and roll it up very quickly. So, you know, that was something that, you know, I actually spent a little while figuring that out. But again, just kind of lets me like roll out material, cut it, roll it up real quick, cut whatever I need to, keep stuff moving along pretty quickly and efficiently. So kind of went over, you know, materials. I'm missing 2 rolls of carbon there, and that's actually what I'm waiting on. This video is being done in 2020 when with all the virus stuff, it's kind of like a running theme of just, even if you order materials early, they, you know, kind of don't show up on time. So this is going from there. We got like our materials. This is our small layup bench here. We got a set of canards kind of ready to go. Again, all of our brushes, anything we need to kind of lay up small parts, mostly canards. These little brackets right here, another 3D printed thing, which is nice because you can kind of just reach in, grab your brushes easier. We got 3-inch, we're out of 2s, and our foam brushes. Here's our mixing area, and then mixing area is purple GPS tape, so any screwdrivers or anything we need that needs to stay in this area. In the cabinet, there's a little heater in there on a thermostat, which is nice because in the winter time it keeps this little cabinet at I think 75 or 80 degrees because epoxy gets thicker as it gets colder, and it's just it keeps it more consistent to work with, so that's kind of nice. Oh, under there is our small oven. Here, I'll show you this real quick. So like when we do canards, we kind of just put them right underneath. There's the heater, all set on timers. So heat timer, vacuum pump timer. The pump is up here. Run the vacuum hose down in, and then you can see we have a few ports. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can actually have 4 small parts going at once in this little tiny oven, which is nice. Oh, and this is the thermostat that the little sensor goes down and into the oven to keep it at a constant temperature. The epoxy I use cures or has like a maximum cure temperature of about 130, 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're looking at this, it's basically just stuff you can get at like a regular home improvement store, because any type of like wire or anything like that for a house is usually rated, I think, at least 60 degrees Celsius, so that's like 140 or 160. You know, so that's kind of why I can get away with that. If you're dealing with like pre-pregs or something that needs a much higher cure temperature, you're gonna need something different than this. I don't get into pre-preg, so that's kind of why I can get away with it. Went over the mixing station. Oh, air conditioner, gotta have that. Middle of summer, and obviously it can get pretty hot in here, but being such a small area, just a regular window unit can keep it pretty nicely temperature controlled, which dealing with epoxies, temperature is very critical. If it was really hot in here, stuff could like kick off on you like that, and you could end up losing like a whole part if it kicks off too quickly on like a really hot day, so keep that in mind too. So I'm standing in our, you know, our large layup area. You know, so if we're doing, you know, wings or splitters or diffusers, whatever, we have all this space to kind of lay it out. So, you know, if you get into larger parts, your shop's just going to need open space. Simple as that, to put all of your big molds. Nothing is in the shop right now for that. So once everything's laid up, oven. I know a lot of people in the past have asked me about my oven. Very similar setup to our mini oven, which we just went over. So kind of the same deal. You can see all of our ports coming in, because I never know what I'm going to have in here. You know, double wide doors so we can fit really large stuff in if we need. There's 5 ports coming down, so I could technically, I'm sorry, there's 6 ports coming down. I could technically have 6 parts going. I've never had to use it. Diffusers are the most, which use 5 ports in one shot. All ran off of the same pump, which again, pumps are up there. one feeds all 6, and then I have like a backup coming just in case if, you know, in the middle of an infusion, pump goes bad or whatever, you know, just kind of gives me that little bit of a leeway. Or if I want to run one part off of one pump, one part off of the other, if I'm squeezing like 2 big things, it just kind of gives me the ability to do kind of what I need. And then these regular like shelf brackets you can get, you know, regular any home improvement store, because again, not knowing what I need in here, I can just kind of take these, you know, and move them, you know, wherever you need to do, you know, whatever. So that's kind of my oven. Some magnets just to have some extra clamps and all that stuff. Oh, these things right here are called, ironically enough, they're called fireballs. But if something were to combust in here, once they reach a certain temperature, much hotter than the oven gets, so basically fire, they basically explode like a powder to put out the fire. Never had an issue. I better, you know, knock on wood on that one. But honestly, that's about it for the oven. How it works, let's see. So like I said, the pumps are up there. I have gauges. I have gauges on the inside of the oven as well. So I can turn on the heat for whatever time I need. These are the fans just to circulate air inside of there. And then, you know, pump 1, pump 2. So turn this on, you hear the pump kick on. It'll be doing pressure. Turn that off. But once we turn the heat on, these little thermostats, you know, run in and everything. So there you go, it just automatically kicks off. So that way I can kind of just like infuse something at the end of the day, set everything, and you know, it all kicks off automatically. So I come in the next morning and it's ready to like demold. Again, just another efficiency thing, being able to kind of, you know, set stuff up how I need it. Another quick note on the pumps. I've landed on these JB Industries pumps. I got 3 of the exact same model. It's this DV200N 7 CFM. If you're doing real small parts, you can get like a lower CFM. I've been able to do entire car hoods, which is a fairly decent sized part with these. There are 10 CFMs, but I'll put a link to these vacuum pumps in the video description below. So going back to the oven real quick, again, just setting up this wall of the door for like stuff I use all the time to set up for infusions or vacuum bags, you know, hose, materials, all of our clamps, any tools that I use. This thing is probably the favorite thing I 3D printed. It's like a little edge roller. So if, let's say this corner was like a mold or whatever, and you put the carbon in it, you can kind of just like roll it along to roll carbon into corners, and then like press it into real tight corners with this. You know, so that thing's pretty cool. And then again, GPS tape, silver or brown is, you know, this wall. So, you know, brown tape on those, silver on those, silver on this, you know, razor blade. So, you know, again, just setting up to kind of be efficient with everything. That brings us to our lovely shipping area. There's not much to it. We kind of got our foam rolls, bubble wrap, you know, banding cart. This is kind of neat because this roll, it's actually probably about half the size of when it's full. So I couldn't really put it on the wall this way because it would stick out really far. But I wanted to be able to just pull normally. So it just runs off the bottom up across this little tube, and I can just, you know, pull out however much I need to wrap whatever parts I need. A couple more supplies up there. So, you know, being a one-man shop, I kind of don't really need specific areas to do stuff, but I need areas to kind of quickly and easily convert over to what needs to be done. Oh, and then last area conversion thing, that little, you know, curtain or whatever, it just rides along this track right here. So what I can do is just pull it out. You know, anything that needs to be like sprayed or clear coated or whatever happens right here, and then can go back into the oven for curing. So, you know, again, just kind of making the shop work for me. Let's see. So I think that kind of covers this area. Once parts are demolded, we're going to head up to our trim shed, and I'll show you around the trim shed real quick. All right, so we're in the trim shed. This area has been in our videos before. I come in here to kind of cut stuff or paint stuff sometimes. This is where all like the dirty, dustiness happens. This wet saw right here is probably one of the best things I ever got. I'll put a link to this thing in the video description below. It's much more expensive than a regular bandsaw, but the fact that it's a wet saw basically makes like zero dust, which is nice, so you don't gotta run like a vacuum port to it or anything. So that thing's pretty cool. And then just kind of moving down the bench, if I ever need to clamp a part, this just folds down, clamps there, and then let's say I needed to cut this but I couldn't hold it, you know, you can kind of just boom, there you go, and then you can kind of cut it you know, without having to hold the part, which is nice. And the reason I made it fold down like that, you can see we're not dealing with very much space here, so if it was permanently out it would just get in the way. My trim area is only about 9 feet left to right and about 15 from the back wall to the front wall, so it's not a very big trim area. But again, being a one-man shop and kind of not having too much like work in process, once I kind of start something, I'll just kind of cycle it all the way through. You know, allows me to get away with a much smaller area. So again, trying to be a little bit organized. This little piece of wood right here is probably the best thing I've ever done. Anything I use on a very regular basis goes right here. Odd stuff just kind of goes against the magnet. Oh, these things are pretty cool. Another idea that I had, I use these pretty often. Here, let's see if I can do like a little test. So what you do is you take it, you put the Sharpie in it. I'm trying to do it one-handed, and then let's say this was a piece of carbon fiber. Here, let's do it this way. Say you had a piece of carbon fiber and the part had an inside corner like this. You can just take this and just run it across it. This is really dusty, so it's not working so good. Whoops. I think I just ruined my Sharpie. But you know, so these are flange heights that I use very frequently. So this would be an inside flange. These run along the outside where you can just, you know, scribe a line very quickly. So again, they were pretty cool. 3D prints, drill press, more hardware for when I set up and do stuff. Just a work area if I ever need it. Chop saw for cutting. Oh yeah, so under here is yet a third oven. There's the thermostat and timer right there. What's nice about this is if something comes in here to kind of be like rough trimmed and then there's a secondary process of bonding, I can put it in there and that really speeds up the bonding process, so that's kind of nice. Once it's on here, and this is our small buff bench, if it's a large part that gets cleared and needs to be polished, you know, we'll just do it in the open here. So I think that's really about it. Again, just clamps, whatever. You know, set up to be what I need. Alright guys, so I think that's about it for my small home composite shop tour. Hope you kind of enjoyed it. I'm gonna be getting into more composite related videos. So any questions, something I missed or something that doesn't make sense, please put them in the comments below. As always guys, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.